What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the page. Today we are continuing on with the F-body alternator mount. This is part 2 of the video. I couldn't get everything into one, and it was a lot of editing, which I'm sure you guys saw. Hopefully you saw. If you didn't, go back and watch the first video with the link right up there. Alright, so I wanted to show you all this here. What we got going on is I have already verified from the work that we did last time. I went back through, put my straight edge across here, and I'll probably show you all that in case you don't know. You don't need any fancy lasers and all that stuff. I mean, if you want to spend your money on it, that's fine. But I mean, if you've got a straight edge, a couple of magnets, you know, and a caliper, you don't get any better than that. I don't like the idea of the laser stuff. I do like the idea. Don't get me wrong, but it's just a lot of room for error. So what I've got here is I've got my string set up. Try to do this with one hand here. So I've got my string set up. You can see I'm in the second groove right there. Second groove right there. I've pulled it around. This is tough with one hand. I pulled it around and set it down in there. But anyway, you can see where I marked it right there. That's where it comes off. So I'm going to pull this string back off, measure it, and that's going to give me the length for my 6-rib belt. Now, I don't exactly know if this is going to work or not, but I ordered this little dude here, smooth idler for the top side of the belt. I can look and see what the application is. I was just looking around on Amazon and for idlers that had an eccentric on it that you can clock out of position. And I'm not sure if this is going to work. I haven't even set it up there yet to see. Let me get that string back around here. A little bit of sag in it. So if we get this guy up here somewhere like that, and it's fully down position, you can see that that's not gonna work. It needs to be bigger than that. So I don't know, I might make an arm here. I might go back and see what the F-body stuff uses. Maybe we can use something off of that. I don't know. Got this guy here. That's the old ICT billet piece when I was running the truck brackets. When I started having problems holding belts on, as it turns out, it was not the factory stuff problem. It wasn't the ICT problem. It was actually the thrust bearing. And it was letting, you can see it. Yeah, daggone. Made a mess of my crankshaft too. But that's the reason that Tinker started throwing belts towards the end of the season. And I didn't catch it until it was too late. We went all of street and eat. Actually finished 3rd in the class in the tailgates and 28s class, so I was super stoked about that, but didn't make a clean pass all week. That thing threw a belt every single pass all week, scared me to death. Didn't even want to crawl back in it, but yeah, so anyway, that's what we got going on. Showed you guys how to measure for your belt length. That's going to get you, I mean, it should be spot on. That way you're not guessing and spending $100 on belts and seeing which one works. You may still have to come back and do that a little bit, but at least you're not buying 5 or 6 belts. And everybody knows the auto parts store is not always the easiest when you can't give them an application. What are you supposed to tell them? I've got a 79 K10 twin turbo with a Dana 30 front axle, a strange S60 rear, a 4L80 with an NP241 case, Mega Squirt ECU Masters PMU controller, race pack dash. Yeah, you can see some heads popping off. So put the work in at home, save yourself some time. So we will see what we can get figured out. Oh, and Merry Christmas, y'all. We got the Culleton Country ham over there soaking, getting ready for all that Christmas morning goodness. Today is Christmas Eve. Just Grandpa Pat Hayes. He was an architect, an amazing woodworker, only had the use of one arm, and the man was just absolutely amazing. What he could do was unreal. Alright, there's more than one way to do this. I hope my hat just wasn't in that. Circle template. Gonna put our quadrant marks on there. Light little construction line across the inside. We'll come over here. Guys, if y'all don't have circle templates and stuff, you get some. I mean, they're cheap. Now, just for the purposes of making things easy and just showing y'all stuff, what I'm trying to do is duplicate this face, seeing how that hole is offset, and then I don't know if I'm going to just use these for maybe adjustment or what, but you can see we've got that guy right there, and then I am going to go and grab my circular cutter. Stand by. Alright, I said circular cutter. They're calling it washer and gasket cutter. So I don't know if y'all have one of these. They're cheap, they're not expensive. It's general, so you can probably get it at Harbor or Northern around here. I'm from Virginia, so we've got Northern Tool. Everybody's got Harbor. Amazon, everybody's got Amazon. But what you can see, it's kind of like a compass. So you got your center point right there, and then you got two cutters on either side. You can see where I've kind of hand whittled them and sharpened them, because sometimes I'll use them to cut paper, sometimes I'll use them to cut cork or gasket material. So that's one thing. Also, something else, big time saver, these little circle punches right here. You can see you got a notch right there, so whether you're cutting a gasket, a paper template, whatever, I've gone through and resharpened that some more, you can see. But these come in metric, they come in imperial, and they're cheap, and it's super easy. You don't have to take a little razor blade and try to cut a circle. I mean, if you're laying stuff out, making things from scratch, I mean, it's just, there's no reason not to have them around. They don't get used every day, but when you need them, big time saver. So what I'm gonna do, I don't think I've even noticed before, but this thing actually has a scale. It's got a measurement on it. So we know we're at 1.5 inches, but I'm just gonna eyeball this thing. Because like I said, we're just kind of playing around. Am I making this difficult? Probably, but I like showing people stuff, and you know, that's what I'm starting this channel for, is to try and help people. And we can all learn. Because I like sharing knowledge, and I like people sharing knowledge with me. You know, you never know. Learn something every day. Boom. There we go. You could do it with scissors too, but I like tools. Things that make things faster, easier, more accurate, you know. That's what it's all about. If you don't like buying new tools, you shouldn't be in the garage. You probably shouldn't be watching this channel. But that's okay. Once again, washer and gasket cutter, general. I don't know who else makes them. Now, we're going to come over here. Don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but there's a bunch of different ways we could transfer that hole. Bunch of different ways, but to make this easy, what I'm going to do is, we got it pinched down, and I'm just going to walk around on the side of it with my finger. Boom. See it? There you go. So what size was that hole? Doesn't have to be perfect, but let's check it out. 409. Wait one. All right, we're back. So what I grabbed was the only circle punches I've got are metric. So it measured 409 thou, really close to a 10 mil. So another little secret to these, if you're working on your weld table and your weld table's nice and flat, when you punch through, you're gonna put a raised ring on your weld table. So what I like to do is just grab something soft, back it up right there. Now this is probably gonna knock my my phone over, but that's okay. Give that guy a whack. Boom. Easy peasy. And then you can see down in there where that thing's stuck. I don't know if you can see that. Just boop. Knock that guy out of there. Move this over. Now you can see that's our layout. So here's what I'm thinking. We've got, you see the string up there, that simulates where a belt's gonna ride. Up here is not gonna work. That'd be too easy if we could use that existing threaded hole there. That one right there is gonna be too low. But right here where that cast and boss is, if y'all can see that circle right there, I know the angle is a little bit off. But if I line that thing right up with it, at full away, if you will, we're not touching it, which is good. And then if we roll it down, we can start to apply pressure. But it hits. It's got a recess in there. So that's the reason I wanted to make this little guy. So what I'm thinking is, I'll make a slug to go in there somewhere like that. I'll make it deep enough to utilize this cavity. So just like that spacer in the back where it's a spacer and it's threaded, I'm thinking something like that. Or I may just come in here and fill that in with weld and then machine it back down and make sure it's flat so that this idler is not skewed in any way. But the whole point of making this was just so I could hold it up here and get an idea on what I might want to do. Not exactly sure. That may work. So I don't know how much, I don't know what kind of round stock I've got in aluminum, but I don't know. I may go in and fill this up with weld. I'm not sure. I haven't thought. What do you guys think? Go in and just fill it up with weld? Or, you know, cut out a block and stick in there? That might be the fastest. Cut out a block. Stick the block in there, weld it in, and then that will at least get us flush. And then I might be able to make a spacer that matches that. I don't know. We'll have to have to think about that for a minute. Alright, I think we got a plan. So I think what I'm going to do is that little cavity right there, I cut that little spacer out, well, a little template. There we go. Let me grab that. So this dude right here, what I'm going to do, this void right there, instead of filling that whole thing with wet, it's going to take a long time. And even though it's cast, it might not warp. I mean, no reason to put that much heat in it. So that little guy right there is going to get transferred over to some aluminum sheet that aluminum plate that I got laying around. So that right there is just about, that pocket is just about 3/8 thick. That plate is 3/8 thick. So I'm gonna trace this out, take it over to the bandsaw, whittle that guy out. Then that plate is gonna get welded into that pocket. And then what I'm going to do is take some aluminum round stock. That depth from that face there to the outside is 3/8. So I'm going to turn that guy back 3/8. Then that little slug will get welded to this piece. And then that whole thing will get welded into there transfer the hole over, and then that will put the outside of that guy just off the face there, and that will be our tensioner. And you may wonder, why are you spending so much time on that little thing? Well, it's a bracket. It shouldn't be wearing out. If it breaks, I got bigger problems than that. So it's not like it's going to be a wear part. So if you put the time into it now, get good belt alignment, make sure everything is rigid, should last a lifetime. Bam. Alright, so I know I was talking about that big piece of plate, but I found this little drop here. That's 3/8. It'll actually give me a little bit of gap in the back, which you guys will see already, which was going to have to be ground off to leave a gap for some weld penetration. So instead of wrestling that big old plate, I'll just take this drop and whittle it out of that. Alright, not pretty, doesn't have to be. It's just going into a slot, take up space, and get welded in. But we'll test fit it, clean it up, and we'll see what we got to do. Alright there, boys and girls. I didn't think y'all need to we didn't need to spend all that time massaging that, but y'all saw me cut that thing out on the bandsaw, and then I just went in and kind of whittled on it, gave myself a bevel so I can sink some weld in, and now that is going to become, then what I'll probably do is throw it up in the mill, wipe the top. I don't know if you can see it, it's almost going to be flush, but it's important that this face here be on the same plane as the back face. So what I'll probably do is set it up in the mill after I get done welding it. Clamp it here, here, and here down to the table, and then wipe the top of it, and that will true everything up. Then I can take the dimension to turn off my round slug that is going to make up that difference there, which it'll probably be 3/8 or something 3/8 plus. And then that is going to set the location of that guy right in there. And once again, you know, people may be going, dude, there's got to be a simpler way to do that. I'm sure there probably is, but I like playing with stuff, and we're learning, and this should be a permanent solution. I mean, everything I'm doing is to the bracket. I don't see this bracket breaking, you know, unless I wad it up for some reason and stuff to get stuffed into it. And like I said, if that's the case, we got much bigger problems. So we're gonna get this guy off of here, take it over to the TIG, and burn that dude in. Alright, I got a little tip for y'all. Sharing information, right? I know when I first started welding, nobody told me about brake clean. Brake clean, brake cleaner. I took a TIG class at the local community college. That's where I learned about it. And the safety portion, which nobody likes talking about safety. You know, you sit there for the first week and you're like, dude, I just want to burn rod. I just want to weld. But I learned this, and I share it with everybody that I come in contact with. Brake clean has no place on a weld table. Don't even keep it around. I put this here to show y'all something. So, and this was interesting about my driven, which I love this stuff. I busted it out when I started putting the engine together. I really like it. I would recommend it. Driven Racing Oil makes it. They make awesome products. I've been trying all their stuff. I'm a big fan of that Driven. But I compared them to make this video, and I wanted to show y'all something. So on this CRC back here, if you look, that ingredient right there, tetrachloroethylene. Maybe I said it right, maybe I didn't. You know, methyl alcohol, ethyl alcohol, they're both alcohols. It's just one is they're derived from two different things, right? Well, lean, like chlorine, all right? When you get UV light from a welding process around tetrachloroethylene, you create phosgene gas. Now, if nobody knows what phosgene gas is, maybe you've heard of the mustard gas. Well, that is, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I was told. That's what I've read. Phosgene is mustard gas, just like they used to kill people in war back in the day. All right? Do not use brake clean to prep your parts for welding. Do not. It will kill you before you can fall out of the chair. You'll be dead. One whiff of that stuff, when it creates phosgene gas, comes up underneath your weld hood, you'll be dead before you hit the floor. Do not do it. Acetone. Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, wherever you live. Get your little squirt bottles off Amazon. They're cheap. You put the acetone in it. They don't evaporate. I mean, the stuff stays in there forever. Something interesting that I noticed about Driven's brake clean is I didn't see the tetrachloroethylene on the back. So I don't know if it doesn't have it, but just don't use it. Don't take the risk. I've smelt it. Like I said, I started out welding. I didn't know any better. I hadn't taken any formal training. I didn't know. Didn't read about it in any books. Probably because I skipped over the safety part because I just wanted to weld or learn how to. Acetone only. And I even ask people when they bring me parts to weld, you know, oil drain bungs in oil pans is a big one, you know. I always like people to bring me parts so I don't waste their time and spend their money just cleaning their parts, but I always tell them, you know, soapy water if you can. Try to stay away from brake clean. Once it gets in, you can never get it out. I mean, solvent, acetone wiping, you can never get it out. And the reason I know that is because you can smell it. You smell it one time, you'll remember it forever. So do not use brake clean to clean parts to prep for welding. Acetone only. Acetone and a blue rag, And this is normally the weld table, guys, but I'm prepping the stuff over here, then I'm taking it way back there to where the TIG cart is, because I've got that set up close to Tinker, because I'm got a lot of things going on at one time. So yeah, this should be the weld table. It's turned into an engine build table, Christmas wrapping table. It is absolutely destroyed. Anyway, back to it. Acetone on a shop rag. Yes, you are going to get boogers in there. You're going to get the little pieces that wipe off. You can use chem wipes if you want, that don't fall apart like that. That's what I use for engine assembly. But here's another little tip. Acetone, shop rag, right? Then you're going to get the little boogers and hairs, the little pieces are going to roll up. When you're done, take your MAP gas, right? Don't even use propane. It's not worth having around. I mean, it's better than nothing, but MAP gas is where it's at. After you're done, come over, hit the part that you just acetone wipe. It'll burn all the little boogers off from the shop towels. It'll get rid of them. So, I'm going to prep this, not with that. Going to prep this guy. That's our little slug. I went in there with a carbide burr and knocked the little high spots down from the casting process and some stamping that was in there. Then that dude is going to drop in there. Then we're going to burn it in, throw it on the weld table, wipe the top, and move forward. Alright, excuse the welder running, the noise in the background, but I wanted to show y'all, you know, work smart, not hard, try to plan ahead. This is where the alternator is positioned between, and this is where I'm welding up here. Now this is a casting, cast aluminum. Typically castings, they don't flex, they don't really move, they're rigid. So I don't think it's gonna move, but just to try to give myself a little bit of prevention, I just took some all thread. Actually, I think this was a battery hold down or something, I don't know, but ran it down through, put some nuts on it and some washers to support it, so the load being applied down here is stopped by the nut. Then I ran this one up until it stopped. I didn't preload it, just until it stopped, and just made it snug. Then ran this one down on top of it, and that should clamp it. So if this thing decides it wants to raise up or move down while I'm welding, that load gets applied down here and it can't go anywhere. Like I said, typically castings don't move much. All metal moves a little bit when you weld it. I don't care how tight you jig it, fixture it, whatever you want to call it, it's going to do what it wants to do, which is why you come back and you straighten axles when you're done welding on them. But just a little bit of prevention here to try to keep me from getting myself in a jam in case this thing did decide that it want to get stupid with me. Alright, man, I tell you what, I suck at this whole video and thing. So the whole time that I was talking and explaining what I was doing, I didn't have my camera on. So what I was talking about was how this casting seems dirty, or it is dirty. Aluminum casting, you know, you can see how it's rolling up all that black and pulling all that trash up to the top. As soon as I lit off on it, I realized this, and I stopped and explained to the camera why I was doing what I was doing. So to clean some of that up, what I'll do is I'll come back over with the torch, no filler even in my hand, and I'll try and just use the cleaning action and break that oxide up on top, just make passes back and forth. I'm not trying to melt the casting at all, or get it or flow it out or anything, just letting the cleaning action do the work. I was explaining that as soon as I did it or saw it, and you guys didn't get to see it. So yeah, looks like crap. It's not going anywhere, and most of that's going to get milled back down anyway, so I'm not worried about it. But aluminum castings, you never know what you're going to get. Definitely a dirty one. I made a couple of passes around it off camera. It still didn't like it, but I'll get this wire brushed up, let it cool down, and then come back in here and fill in that last little spot where I've got my my washer in the way. So sorry I missed that, guys. All right, brings up another good point. See how I've got alley written on that wire brush right there? Don't mix up. All right, so hopefully y'all can hear this over the welder running. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run back over this. I wire brushed it. I'm gonna run back over it and see if I can maybe get any of that nastiness to float to the top. I don't think it's gonna be very successful, but It doesn't matter. Not for this. So I'm going to go back through it, just roll over it, see if I can clean it up just a little bit. Fill in this spot right here now that I've got my little fixture removed. Something else that I didn't mention, what I could have done is I could have cranked up the cleaning on the machine itself on the settings. Right now I'm on 30, which Everlast is different than, I know, Miller. So that would be 70 on a Miller. Not sure about Lincoln. 30 is typically where I run my machine on pretty much everything. So I could have put some more cleaning in it, a lot more if I wanted to. Put some more heat in the tungsten and try to clean that casting up a little bit more. I'm not too worried about it. There's no reason to waste a whole lot of time on it. So anyway, I'm going to roll back over this and see if I can get it cleaned up a little bit and then fill in that corner. That is nasty. When I was rolling back over to here, it looked like it took a little better. Woo! Yucky. Alright, so you can see when I rolled back over it, you know, most of it took. Still got kind of nasty right up in there, but that's okay, because it's going to get wiped off again, and if I see any big porosity or anything underneath after I get wiped, I'll come back in, grind it out if I have to, fill it, and repeat the process. But once again, guys, aluminum castings, you never know what you're going to get. I've welded on some that I thought were going to be a pain in the butt, and turned out great, and didn't think this one was going to be much trouble, and it gave me a fit. So not the end of the world. This is already way more than it needs, but if you're going to do it, try and do it right. All right, so we got the bracket up in the mill, getting ready to what we're going to do is probably come over here and witness, touch off of that, set our 0, and then start wiping it, and then come down to that final height right there. And then I may have to knock that bushing down just a hair. Not sure yet. I may be able to get around it. But yep, next up. Well, I just did it again. Either the camera keeps cutting off, or I keep forgetting to start it. Operator error, probably. Anyway, so that's what I figured we were going to see. That porosity and that crap bubbling up from underneath. So, man, I don't know. I can go back through and fill it. I mean, all it is prettiness. Like I said, that is not a good thing. Don't get me wrong. You know, porosity in the weld is not a good thing. But for what we're trying to do, I don't know. And I'll tell you what, I am so glad I didn't try to go in there and fill that whole cavity. Gosh, that would have been a pain. But we got it trued up, and now it's back to the same plane as this. You know, that surface there and this surface here are parallel now. So, I don't know. Screw it. So since we're back over here, I did want to bring something else up, because this is a good example. Well, I knew it was going to do this. I knew it was going to look like that. Once again, can't reiterate this enough. Not a big deal. So I don't want all the YouTube pros out there to be like, oh my gosh, the truck's going to fall apart. No, that's not what's going on. I could continue on from right here and we would never have a problem. But I do want to bring something up. When you're welding aluminum and you see those little black speckles coming to the top and kind of bubbling and doing weird stuff, you may not ever see this. You know, we just happen to mill it back off and expose them. But this is what's happening underneath. So whatever impurity is in there that's just not having it and not wanting to flow in, it's getting hot and it's causing a little gas bubble. And that gas bubble creates an air pocket where the aluminum, the parent material, and your filler will not fuse together. And that little air pocket in there is just refusing. It's going, nope, ain't going nowhere. Can't get rid of me. And you can get it to flow over on top, but this is what happens underneath, and you never get to see it. So this is just a neat little example of what happens. Once again, this is not really what I consider a structural type deal. It's not like it's holding the bracket on that's carrying weight or anything like that. Just a little bit of tension from the belt. But just wanted to throw that out there, because that's what's going on underneath. So if you're seeing something like that, even in steel or moly or anything, keep in the back of your head, if you move on and you don't take the time to stop, grind it back out, clean it, figure out what's causing it, and then get it to flow in, that's what you're going to have underneath. Man, I tell y'all what, this YouTube stuff is kind of a pain. I mean, it's easier just to do the work, which is why I haven't done this stuff. So I just figured something out. Half of what I've been recording today is not getting recorded because my phone keeps cutting off because I got all these big old files in there and it wouldn't record. So half of this crap has been missed. So I went inside, grabbed my Insta. So it probably looks a little bit different, but we're gonna continue on while all these videos that I've been filming are downloading off my phone. So what we got going on is, I don't think anything got recorded while I was welding either. So we had the porosity, we went back over this thing. You can see right over in there, it's still giving me fits. I'm done messing with it. We're gonna throw it back in the mill. We're gonna wipe this off, and then move on to the next step. Because I don't like anything being not perfect, but I'm wasting too much time on it. So some of it was for y'all, some of it was just for me to see what I could do with it. But once again, it's not gonna hurt anything. Moving back to the mill, wipe this thing off, we're moving forward. All right, so there we are. Got a little bit of it cleaned up over on this side. That side still wants to be a pain in the butt. Not worried about it. Not spending any more time on it. We're moving on. Figure out what the next step's going to be to locate the hole that's going to go here. But we got to put everything back together, mock it back up, locate that hole, and you know, now we're probably close to a 1/2 inch thick right here that we're going to drill and tap. Where this void used to be, now we got plenty of flat space. You drill and tap that so that we can mount our idler right there. All right, so we got our little alternator back on there. We've got this string measured, so I know what length the belt is. If I can just bring that back around there. Yeah, that'll work. All right, so now you can see what we have going on here. So that black line right there is where the casting is on the inside, that casting here, and that's what that radius is here. That way, if I decide that I want to be able to put a nut on the back, I don't think I'm going to do that. No, disregard, never mind. But we've got like a 1/2 inch of material here. So I don't know, I may time cert that. Not a helical. Helicals are for rookies. Time cert that. I may time cert the motor plate as well. Not exactly sure. But now you can see what I've been trying to do. So now we can mount that guy. We just have to make sure that we can clear that washer, which I can make that washer smaller, not a big deal. So all the way up, that will clear it. And actually, you know what? I could roll it. I could roll it the other way. That's probably what I'll do. I'll probably roll it the other way. Because when you roll it that way, you're getting closer to the center of the belt to take the slack out. So I would say somewhere right in there. That's what I'm thinking. And we have to keep in mind too, the belt's going to be thicker than that piece of string. So we'll come up a little bit and give ourselves some room. Give ourselves some room there. So I'm thinking that's looking good. So what we'll do, we'll come over here, make sure I'm not in the camera. We'll do a little sharpieing so that I can see my mark. That was right through there. Another little tidbit, transfer punch. They're not expensive. Well, you can get expensive ones, you know, if you wanted to spend money on Starrett or something like that, but transfer punches, they've got a length to them. I don't know, hopefully this will focus. They've got a really sharp tip, and they come in different sizes. Disregard if you guys already use these, but another thing to throw in the toolbox for your fab work and stuff. So they come in different sizes, fits the bore real good, transfers through. So when I'm holding this thing up here, probably somewhere in there, I'm thinking. Typically you would smack this with a hammer, but I know where I need it. I put Sharpie on it for a reason. Now I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but that's our mark right there where we transferred the hole through. Just like that. So you can see how much clearance we're gonna have off our belt, which looks good. And then we've got enough room to roll it down and start to apply pressure to keep that belt tight. So now what I got to do is I have to turn that disc that I was telling you about, that is going to space this off, because right now when I hold it up there, we've got our OD that's just touching. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn that spacer right there, and then I will probably weld the spacer onto that and make it one piece instead of or maybe just stitch it in a couple of spots, because it's not going to be doing anything, but it's just a spacer. So I probably, because that casting got so nasty, I may come in here and weld it on both sides just to hold it in place, where I've got good material, and try to stay off that casting so it doesn't get me frustrated anymore. So we will drill and tap that for M10 by 1.5, I think. And then we will make our spacer and keep moving forward. Ooh, there we go. There's our little buddy. Took it over there to where I sand my thrust bearings, knock any burrs off of that guy. Looks super good. All right, let's figure out what's next. All right, so this is working out pretty good. I got two little weights down here holding my string, so it keeps it kind of a little bit tight. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I got my center punch mark right there. It's going to line up with that hole right back behind it. But what you have to think about is when this gets tacked on, so there's our tiny little mark right there. That's going to line up with that. When this gets tacked on, I need to think about where I put it. You don't want it loose behind it, because then it could be flopped down here, it could be any place. And it's on an eccentric, so when it's lined up, this stays in place. Then you roll this over to tighten the belt, it's going to rock off the side. So what I want is for this to be tacked on in the position that the belt is going to be tight, so that loose, it's rolled over here. Sorry. When it's loose, it's rolled out of position, and when it's tight, it comes back over close as possible to it. So what I did was put a little mark opposite of the center over here, got a little mark in there, kind of eyeballed it for where the belt's going to be tight, and that little slug is going to be welded somewhere right over in there, which is okay. We've still got room to get our bolt out. And if you have to take the whole bracket off, you will have to take the tensioner off first to get to that bolt, but that's not a big deal. How often are you going to take the whole bracket off? More than likely, you're just going to be taking out that bolt, dropping the alternator. So this is coming on pretty good. This is going to be a through hole for a bolt shoulder diameter, and that is going to be drilled and tapped for M10 by 1.25 pitch. So those are the next steps. We'll get that through hole popped. We'll get that drilled and tapped. All of this will be back off, and then we'll be back to the weld table to try to tack this in place, hopefully without ending up with a bunch of nastiness like we got before. But once again, this is just a spacer. You can see, leaves it just that much, which puts the inside of our belt right around in here. All right, so we're gonna come in here, we're gonna center drill that guy. Then we're gonna come in and drill it for an 8.5 millimeter, because that is the tap drill size. And then we're gonna put some threads in this thing. All right, there you go. One tapped hole. Bam. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna punch this through hole in here. And this is, there's no dimension or anything on this. This is just, I'm just eyeballing this because it's all wherever I want it to be. That looks good right there. All right, so the shoulder on those M10s measures 9.9, so we'll throw a 10 millimeter drill in there and punch that out. All right, there's your little guy. And I think what I might do, instead of welding it, I've got room. I think I might do another through hole here, countersink it, thread the bracket, and just put a screw in there so that this can be removed, but it still holds in place and can't flop around. I think that's a better way to do it. So let's get the bracket back over here. All right, so if it wasn't making sense before, maybe it will now a little bit. So there's our drilled and tapped hole right there. There's our spacer. There is our idler with the most surprised face I've ever seen on any idler. That thing's like, what? Through there. Through there. And this is not the bolt that I'm going to use, it's just one sitting around. See? Now, if y'all see what I'm saying down here about that thing moving, you see what I'm saying now? That's the reason that spacer needs to be locked in place. So instead of welding it on there like I was talking about earlier, that's what this line was for, right there, lining up with that guy, because that should be the orientation somewhere when this gets rocked over and just tight. So when you put the belts on and it's loose, they won't be lined up. But when you snug it down, it should be very close, so that almost all of that is contacting your hole diameter there. So I think what I'm going to do, through hole that, drill and tap there for something small like an M4 or something like that, countersink the top so it sits down below the surface, and then that will lock this onto there so that when you rotate it around to tighten it, this doesn't spin behind it, so that when you get it in the snug position, you're clocked off that eccentric so that you're contacting all of that pad to keep that thing tight. And I don't have any time certs here, time certs, jergens, whatever you want to call it. I think what I'm going to do is oversize that for a time cert, or maybe I'll stud it. I might put a stud in it, Loctite the stud in so that when you go to tension this, and you tighten your bolt back down, or nut if it's a stud, you're not pulling on those threads anymore. You know, you're not wearing those out. Stud might be a better idea because there's no reason this can't come off the front. Yeah, so let's head back over to the mill, lay some stuff out, through hole and countersink that, drill and tap that somewhere in there, and keep on getting it. Alright, so to save some time, here, I'll show y'all. Does that look any better there? Yeah, y'all can see a little bit better. Alright, so to save some time, what I did was I got my mark where I want the hole to be. I locked this in position by the threads that we already made. Now I'm going to use this piece, the spacer, to transfer the location where the threads need to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to center drill that. We're going to drill all the way through on our tap drill diameter, which is 3.3 for an M4, M4.7 pitch. So we're going to drill all the way through. Then we can do our measurement, see how deep we need to go while this is still in place for the through hole on that. Then we'll remove that guy. Then our hole will be in place underneath where we need it, and then we just tap that for an M4. And before we move that, hopefully we don't forget to countersink it, because it's countersunk bolt, so it's below that depth. Here we go. Ain't that some crap? Huh. Never even used that thing. Man. Alright, so now that guy can come off. That's our through hole, which is going to be used for that. Now we take this, countersink. Go back to our 0 here. Lock her down, get this guy countersunk. That'll do it. Almost forgot that. Now we're already all the way through. Now, don't want stuff all over the place. Now we need to come over. We'll take our bolt out. That's not it, is it? No. We'll take our bolt out. And actually, no, we can tap right now. We can tap right now. Here's our dealio. Got Stuff everywhere. What did I do with it? There it is. Just got to be careful about how deep we go. Thought that was feeling a little weird. All right, that's enough to get it started. It's starting to feel a little bit weird, and I think it's because we got chips. Down in there. It's a little loaded up. Let's check something real quick. Yeah, there it went. So, not that this really matters, but the rule is thread diameter times 2 in aluminum. So we've got an M4. We should be shooting for 8 millimeters of thread depth. We just saw the tap go into there. That's more than 8. It's probably about 12. So we know we've got enough thread engagement. Now the bummer is I don't have many countersunks, so I'm gonna have to cut this one down. But that's okay. So it's working out good so far. Alright, so it's working out pretty good. So we got our bracket there. That's our M4 drilled and tapped. We've got our spacer with a through hole countersunk. So the way this whole thing is going to work, this bolt is temporary. I'm just using it because I've got it laying around. So we're going to snug this up. Okay. Now our M4 countersunk is going to go in. Going in nice, digging it. I like it. I like it a lot. Alright, that guy's in. And I left the Allen wrench at the mill. Sweet. Alright, we back. So now the M4 has got it located. Back this guy out. Why does that keep cutting off? Thank you. Keep screen on during this recording. Yeah, of course. That guy's there, so now you can see he's below the surface. So he's not going to hang up. Now, our really surprised looking pulley is going to go on there. Boom. Now from the back, you can see it's lined up. Can you see that? Right in there. And that should be right about the tangent coming off of that point right there. So that should be our belt snug location. So now we can flop this guy around without it moving in the back, and you can see what I'm talking about. See? That's why I wanted this guy, our spacer, located in the orientation of when the pulley is tight, because I didn't want it rocking off like this and we're losing half of our contact. So I'm just guessing on how much the belt needs to be tight. Of course, that's based on length, but if we get the right length, we should be right here or just past it, and we're still going to be making plenty of contact. With our tensioner. I am digging that. F-body, lower mount, truck body spacing with an adjustable tensioner. It's not spring loaded, but I don't care because I know how to tension a belt. It's not a problem. Check that out. Bam! How you like that, people? Alright, so I'll get this thing back on and we'll start it back up. The video, I mean. We're a long way from starting it up. Oh, y'all, I am super pumped about this. Man, this is some cool stuff. This is some cool stuff. Check this out. Yeah, buddy. Got my string there simulating the belt. Of course, the belt is going to be a little bit higher. Now I don't know if we can sneak past it right in there. Nah, you can't really see it. How cool is that? And then you may be asking me, well, Brandon, I mean, how are you going to tension the thing? You know, it doesn't have a cutaway in it for a 3/8 ratchet or something. I could either make a tool, you know, I know that would be a pain to go in those two little slots right there, but here's what I'm thinking. Screwdriver, ratchet, pry bar, whatever. Crack it loose. Do whatever you got to do with it. Bring the guy up. You got your belt right. Pry bar in between those two. Why does this thing keep cutting off? Daggone it. Pry bar in here. Roll it down. Tighten it up. Of course, it fell. There's no belt on there, y'all. Yep, and a permanent deal. And then if you need another tensioner, well, I've got the part number. Not a problem. I am digging that. Super short belt. It's got a tensioner on it. Don't have to use those flex dealios. Put a little bit of tension very close to the center. Shouldn't matter though. Man, this is turning out slick. I do think I am going to drill and tap that for a time cert. And then I will probably do the same thing back here. I don't know though. I was talking about putting a stud in that. I don't know. I may stud it. I'm not sure. Man, this is turning out sweet. All right, everybody. Y'all let me know what you think. You're supposed to subscribe and like and all that stuff. If you like what I'm doing here in the shop, let me know. I'll continue to make videos on this stuff. I really enjoy doing the work. Don't really enjoy doing the videos. It's kind of a pain, and I'm learning. And I apologize for the first video, which y'all need to go check out if you haven't seen this one. Or if you haven't seen the first one, because the first one is the start of the project. And we're not 100% done. But if you like this stuff, subscribe, like, share, tell your friends. Just trying to set some more world records with this sand drag deal. Go really fast in the 1/8 and the 1/4 as well. So hope y'all liked it. I may do a third video on this after I get it all painted. Maybe I'll show the drilling and tapping for the time certs and stuff like that. But Tinker Motorsports and Fab, my name is Brandon. Thanks for hanging out. Merry Christmas, y'all. See you.